Anime in the 80s and 90s was known for the phenomenal science fiction stories that often visualized a not-so-distant future where humans would coexist with artificial intelligence or alien life forms. Interestingly, there were two distinct kinds of sci-fi anime that were released in these 2 decades. One, the likes of Space Adventure Cobra, which delved into the, intergalactic adventures of the titular hero, and the second type questioned the very notions of human existence and its purpose in the long run. One of the culturally foundational anime films made during this phase was the 1988 film adaptation of Akira, which is based on the Japanese obsession with game-ending weaponry. While the story is often deemed as an offshoot of the Japanese aftermath of the Second World War, Akira's artistic brilliance was in the way that it portrayed and gave socio-political commentary on nuclear armament and world destruction. Akira's popularity as a cultural icon is such that it eventually went on to inspire another film adaptation of another famous manga in the year 1995. Known for its remark on the expanding use of technology and man's obsession with perfection and power, Ghost in the Shell. Following the experiences of Major Motoko Kusanagi in the year 2029, Ghost in the Shell explores the investigations of Public Security Section 9 as they unearth the corruption inherent in the system and weed out those who misuse cybernetic technology for their personal ambitions. At the same time, a significant part of the story is dedicated to elaborating on Kusanagi's dilemma as a cybernetic human entity. So, in this video, we'll be throwing light on Kusanagi's unique anatomy as we simultaneously dive into the main plot of the 1995 film. So, without further ado, let's get started. The Ghost and the Shell, distinguishing the human from the non-human in the 1995 film. Ghost in the Shell is often deemed to be one of the most significant sci-fi films that attempts to delve into the ideas of existentialism with nihilistic undertones. Anticipating the emergence of films like the Matrix franchise, Ghost in the Shell makes a philosophical inquiry into the purpose of life, that is, human life in particular. With the constant ambitions of perfecting the human body, the 1995 film envisions Japan in 2029 as the ultimate hub of cybernetic advancements as people are seen to undergo surgeries for biotechnological prosthetics. These surgeries are conducted just to augment the human body by enhancing its physical capabilities with the help of cybernetic implants. However, these kinds of surgeries seem to reduce the human body into a mere shell, which is inhabited by the consciousness, that is, the ghost. One way to understand this nomenclature is to ascertain the value of the biological human body in a world that is entirely dominated by technology. With the increase in the use of cybernetic prosthetics among the people in Newport City, the natural aspects of the human body are gradually replaced by the mechanical parts that constitute the implants, thus reducing the body into a metallic shell. However, the essence of this body, known as the human soul or the human consciousness, can never be replaced by such implants. At the same time, it is unlikely for a human soul to prevail within a cybernetic body. Thus, the soul or the consciousness is dubbed as a ghost, a remnant of one's former identity as a natural human being, which is still intact after the surgery. In this grand scheme of things, Major Motoko Kusanagi's position is quite crucial to the plot of Ghost in the Shell. After all, while Section 9 investigates the political corruption that is accompanied by a sort of digital warfare, Kusanagi's existential angst primarily functions as the driving force of the entire plot, and this is further complemented by her own cybernetic body. I feel confined, only free to expand myself within boundaries. How Motoko's anatomy is the basis of the entire story. Major Motoko Kusanagi is the protagonist of the 1995 film Ghost in the Shell. The cyborg squadron leader of Public Security Section 9, Kusanagi is part of one of the most efficient teams in the police force, and is only second in command to Lieutenant Daisuke Aramaki, an influential member of the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. With the sole purpose of weeding out corrupt officials who misuse the digital networks of communication, Kusanagi makes use of her wits as well as her cybernetic abilities that stem from her prosthetics. So, what are the features of Kusanagi's anatomy? Let's find out. 1. Her entire body is cybernetic in nature. In other words, she's a cyborg inside and out. As seen in the iconic opening credits of the 1990 film, the exterior of Kusanagi's body is manufactured with the help of advanced bioengineering standards. This includes the skeletal frame of her entire body, especially her skull, which envelops her brain and the rest of her nervous system. This implies that Motoko Motoko's cybernetic body is far stronger and more durable than a normal, natural human body. Albeit susceptible to physical damage upon impact by explosives or ammunition, Kusanagi is still able to function as a sentient being due to the ghost that resides within her cybernetic being. We will discuss this in detail in the subsequent parts of the video. Next, we come to her weaponry. Equipped with an M23 submachine gun, Motoko is the sort who would hunt down her adversary by hook or by crook, and this is best expressed by her cloaking technique. Unique to her anatomy when compared to other members of the police force, Motoko's ability to become partially invisible, which is similar to the concept of camouflage, allows her to infiltrate secure buildings and even track her targets down with ease. This further explains Motoko's brilliance in espionage when it comes to surveillance and security. As for point number 3, we kinda spoiled it for you already. Yes, we're talking about her brain and spinal cord, which constitute the only remnants of her former identity as a human being. To understand this better, let's recall the story of the ship of Theseus. One of the most intriguing philosophical ideas in Greek mythology, the story of the ship of Theseus elaborates on how the ship's physical parts, which got damaged over time, are replaced with newer versions of the same parts. So the question that emerges from this story is whether the ship of Theseus that exists after the replacements were made is the same as the one that had first departed the coast. In other words, does the essence of the vessel change just because each of its parts was replaced over the given period of time? This is the basis of Kusanagi's existential dread, whether she still has her human soul or the ghost, even after undergoing extensive cybernetic surgeries. The fact that Kusanagi only possesses her human brain and spinal cord seems to further her uncertainty regarding the presence of her ghost inside her body. This implies that Kusanagi does not retain any humanity in her, be it her consciousness or intuition. Rather, she believes that all her actions and decisions are the byproducts of her mechanical manufactured self. In addition to this, Motoko also feels that the memories in her cyber brain have been artificially created in order to fool her into believing that she was, in fact, a human being at some point in the past. This deterministic attitude is best represented in the infamous swimming scene that visualizes Motoko's strong desire to discover or rediscover her own human self, if there exists any. This is followed by the boating scene, viewed as the most profound event in the 1995 Ghost in the Shell film, where she indulges in a rather fatalistic conversation with her colleague Bateau, who is visibly concerned about her well-being. Throughout the film, Section 9's investigations of the cyber-terrorist activities by the Puppet Master are complemented by Major Kusanagi's quest to seek her ghost, and in turn, seek her purpose to continue existing in a futuristic society that is obsessed with ideas of perfecting the human body. All this would eventually culminate in Kusanagi's final encounter with the Puppet Master. The hero and villain become one, what Motoko's fusion with the Puppet Master means in Ghost in the Shell. To give a glimpse of what the story is about, the 1995 Ghost in the Shell film follows Major Kusanagi as she leads Section 9 to hunt down the Puppet Master, a sentient digital being, officially known as Project 2501, that has gone rogue and is attempting to bring down world order via cyber terrorism. Although it is later revealed that Section 6 of the police force was responsible for its creation, the Puppet Master seeks political asylum out of a strong desire to find its true identity, a goal that is somewhat similar to that of Kusanagi's. In what can be described as one of the most suspenseful climax scenes in sci-fi anime films, Kusanagi's conversation with the Puppet Master is phenomenal, to say the least. Towards the end of the film, the two ghosts are seen interchanging their cybernetic bodies, that is, Motoko occupying the shell of the Puppet Master, and vice versa. Symbolizing the instance of the two ghosts as looking at the world from each other's perspectives, the Puppet Master elaborates on how it hopes to live in the material world by possessing a human brain that would die later on. To the sentient being, reproduction and mortality constitute the essence of any kind of life. Hence, upon learning Kusanagi's anatomy as well as her own wishes to explore her humanity, the Puppet Master proposes the idea of the two ghosts merging together. That way, Kusanagi would be able to access all the digital networks across the world, while the Puppet Master would acquire her human brain, and Major Kusanagi agrees to this fusion of their ghosts. The film ends with Kusanagi waking up in the cybernetic body of a young girl, which was obtained by Bateau from the black market. Turns out, the fusion of the two ghosts resulted in the culmination of a new entity that is neither Major Kusanagi nor the Puppet Master. Instead, it is now a sentient being that will only stay in touch with Bateau and live its life on its own terms. With a grin on her face as she looks down at the cityscape that extends far and wide, Kusanagi says, "Now where shall I go? The network is vast," and the screen goes black, accompanied by the famous soundtrack by Kenji Kawai titled Making of a Cyborg. So what does this ominous grin signify? Does it mean that Kusanagi doesn't exist anymore? Or that the Puppet Master has taken over? Well, the answer is both yes and no. In a way, Major Kusanagi continues to exist within the new entity, which also happens to include the Puppet Master itself. However, it can be speculated that while the fusion meant the possible erasure of their distinct identities as Kusanagi and the Puppet Master, the new sentient being possesses the Major's memories, which is indicated by its familiarity with Batou, as well as the access to the infinite digital networks that could only be possible with the help of the Puppet Master. In short, the two ghosts converge to create an artificial being that is capable of deciding its own fate without surrendering to fatalism. In case you're wondering, this is quite similar to Ava's escape into the real world, as seen towards the end of the 2014 Hollywood film Ex Machina. Marvelous verdict! The 1995 Ghost in the Shell film is an outstanding take on the crisis of identity and the resulting existential dread that accompanies our undeterred reliance on technology that only seems to increase with each passing day. While expecting the propagation of cybernetic surgeries in the year 2029 is quite unlikely in the real world, some of us do have the same questions as Kusanagi. Who am I? What am I destined for? What is my purpose in life, and how does my existence affect the world around me? Perhaps you've already asked these questions to your own self at some point in your life. Perhaps you're asking them now. The only difference between you and Major Kusanagi, dear viewer, is that you still reside within your anatomical human shell.